Welcome to another great edition of Younger Life Live. Rick Federici, Mary Anthony, and it is another beautiful day here on the set of Younger Life Live. Don't forget youngerlife.org/live to scope it out in full here. And we've got a great show lined up. You know, you think about March and you think about some of the things that are going on. Did you know that 1 in 3 Americans don't even get enough sleep? And that is absolutely crazy when you think about that. But I look at that and I say to myself, I know personally that I don't get enough sleep because I'm doing like 3 to 4 hours a night. You know what I'm saying?
I don't
Mary
think
Anthony?
any of us get enough sleep, that's for sure. But you certainly don't get enough sleep.
Well, they say, and this is where I'm trying to understand and digest as I look at age and different things, that if you don't get enough sleep, you could actually pack on the pounds.
Well, you know, I've heard that for years, but I think what surprises me is that a lack of sleep causes so many additional issues.
Absolutely.
I mean,
agree.
you know, it's such your body really needs that time to charge, to stay healthy. You know, it was just you know, again, reading about it, it's interesting. And we're going to have Dr. Altschuler on, who is a specialist in the area of sleep disorders. And he has written a new book, and it's called Doctor Say What. So
did you say Doctor Say What?
Yeah, that's what it's called. So we're going to talk to him and see if he can go ahead and enlighten us a little. I didn't know that March is Sleep Awareness Month.
Either did I.
Yeah,
I did
think
not know that.
That was something that, you know, I feel like I love. Every month, I didn't realize how many things really go into.
How many
the
things
month.
can they pack into our month?
Well, I know. You know,
Seriously.
it's funny because March is Colorectal
Absolutely.
Cancer Awareness Month. We have learned that it is now Sleep Awareness Month. It is Red Cross Month.
How about our nutrition?
And Nutrition Month, absolutely.
come
I mean,
on.
like those things that it surprises me. I'm always saying, "Oh, how cool! I didn't know that. I better write that down." I did. You know, it's surprising to me.
Do you
how many
put up
things.
little notes on the refrigerator for
No, I
yourself
put them
and the
all
kids?
over in my book.
So do I.
You
I
know
put
what
them up
mean?
on my
They're
computer
in
screen.
my book. I have them all over in my little calendar book, like, you know, all these different little things.
I
So.
think too, one of the things I want to throw out there is, you know, asking the doc about that theory straight out. Okay,
Right.
so how many hours? You know, if you're truly up
Right.
super early, and there are days that I get 3, 4, 5 hours, but I got to be honest with you, like even look at the weather right now in the Midwest, or more specifically Indiana, Chicago, Michigan. Right now, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sleep. I hate to say that. I'm going to bed as late as I can. I've got
Yeah.
the windows open.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'm doing my 4 hours, and I get up and I feel fantastic. And I actually I'll tell you, I rode my bike. I was saying to one of our mayors here in Northwest Indiana this morning,
yeah.
Mayor Milo, I
heard her
opened up
on.
my window where I've got my bike on a trainer.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit. I didn't do a lot. I did about 15 minutes, but I wanted to get into that groove.
Yeah.
The breeze was beautiful, but you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, you know, and
I feel great.
that's as close as you're going to get to getting outside right now, especially when you're talking nighttime crunch kind of thing. So, I mean, I think bravo you know. I think
Good for you,
that's
Ricky.
fantastic. And you get that air going. It kind of
Yes.
feels much more stimulated like you're outside rather than when you really aren't. So.
Well, and that does bring up a good point, because I did mention that I love riding my bike outside
Right.
just because of that atmosphere and the ambience. But when you're in the heat of the winter, and I'm all
Yeah.
about this, but what I want to throw out there is it's still,
Yeah.
and you sweat way differently
Well,
because
absolutely.
your body is not breathing, even though I'm wearing the proper clothing for it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think that the clothing and you know, I think the term they call it whisk. Is that what they call it? Like when it's supposed to whisk the sweat off, you know, when they
Right.
were explaining what it does, like it absorbs it.
I
but
know
it's
that that's a
supposed to let the
detergent.
air- I know, me too. I do too. You know, and after yesterday, my little whole faux pas, Jeremy and I got a good chuckle over it. Rick very politely pointed out when we were talking to the awesome maestro.
Maestro Philip Bowman on the air.
Yeah, he was really cool.
Awesome.
I mean, and you know, the concert's going to be so great this weekend. But joking about how I thought he said the blues, which surprised me that he said that.
And
that
what
they're
did
gonna
you
be
end up doing there, Mary Anthony?
Oh, I said, my husband loves the blues.
But Phil,
he was such a pro and didn't even
gentleman,
touch it.
straight over it. I'm like, and I'm looking at her, and you know, even the producers are like, dude, it's
Did you just
Rhapsody
say
in
that?
Blue.
Yeah, I know, blue, not blues.
George Gershwin.
Yeah, and so
Right.
I got a good chuckle about that, but I didn't even know until after we were
That's
off
right.
here. So I
Totally
told
cool.
Jeremy, that's right, real life.
Hey,
you
we're
know,
human.
Real life, it happens. So sue me, whatever. But we got a good laugh about it. So anyway, so I'm not sure that whisk is the proper term, but they do say that, you know, I know when we had the bike stop here, you know, about how the clothing actually helps to let your sweat, it absorbs it, but lets the air in too to kind of cool you down.
Truly
which
agree.
You're not going to get indoors.
I
So
used
even when
to-
you wear it, I think that's the downside.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this with Trina, Todd, Patrick, the folks from the
Right,
Bike Stop.
they're awesome.
One of the things I would have never believed, because you look at riders, and I'm a rider, quote unquote. I say it
Yeah.
loosely, but I'm very proud of it because
Absolutely.
I love it. That being said, I would have never honestly thought that putting on those particular shorts and putting on those shirts, that it really would have made that much of a difference. But I'm really weird about sweating and just different things. I could not believe how awesome you feel. You feel fantastic. The shoes, the way that you're positioned, and it really truly, you could be aerodynamic,
It's a
for lack of a
mindset.
better word, but I loved it. Same thing with my wife. She didn't want to wear the particular shoes that clip in. They
Right.
clip into the pedals.
Yeah, that's
I love
good.
it. She wanted it to be normal, but the clothes are absolutely
See, and I love
a
to hear you
necessity.
say that only
Yeah.
because I know myself, being only a writer for
Sure.
like regular old, just for fun, like down, I would never. It's hard for me to imagine that the clothes make that big of a difference. But you're certainly not the first person that's told me that. But I love that because I feel like I do know that you're not just. That's not always been what you've worn to ride and stuff. So
I would just wear
so
normal
to
shorts,
yeah,
shirts,
absolutely.
socks, gym shoes.
So it's nice to hear that it really is that big of a difference. We're as we get closer to nicer weather, we really are gonna, at least if nothing else, we're gonna go for the tag-alongs for my littlest two that attach to the adult bikes. So we are. I'm really looking forward to that. We've been kicking it around. We're trying to wait so we can plan. Get them and like surprise the kids.
Sure.
And take it. Let's go. Even if we just do Potato Creek, something somewhere we can ride that's a little safer than on the
Well,
roads
and
right
it's
now.
funny because I was doing a business event in the South Bend area, and on the way down the toll road, Potato Creek is one of
Yeah,
those
oh, yeah.
exits. And I actually thought about that, and I thought, wow,
It's
what
beautiful.
a great family bonding. And I've never been there.
It's beautiful. It's
know.
nice. It's fun. We've gone, fishing and hiking and biking there.
For
before,
folks that
so.
are listening or viewing in Indiana, it's the corridor of South Bend, Indiana, by Notre Dame. So, which is really, really cool. While you're there, visit the grotto, by the way. But just throwing that out there, I am so looking forward to hopefully getting our group together because we've
I
got some
know.
really great people in there just to try to bond, to bike.
Just to enjoy it. Right.
Exactly,
Just
the
an outing.
outdoor
It'll be
stuff.
nice. It'll be really nice.
Which I'm really, really excited about. So, and then I look at the way, we focus on, sleep or different things. How does that affect the conditions? And the book that the doc was talking about obviously is one of those.
Oh,
You're
this might
listening
be
to
him.
Younger Life Live. We got it ready to rock and roll.
Oh, great.
Here with WIMS and, of course, Younger Life Live, Mary and Ricky. Hey, how are you? Good morning, doctor. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good morning.
Well, we are absolutely fantastic, and we are so looking forward to, bonding with you, knowing that March is Sleep Awareness Month. Tell us a little bit about yourself, doctor, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Okay, well, I'm an internist. I've been an internist for about 39 years. I actually am the director of the sleep medicine at Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Tulsa. So I like to sleep. So I'm a good expert on sleep.
I have to ask you this: how many hours a night do you get that is good for you? I was just mentioning this because I want to ask you something very specific to me myself. How many hours do you get, doctor, a night of sleep, roughly?
You mean me personally?
Yes, please.
I usually get about 8 hours of sleep myself, sometimes 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Is that pretty much your minimum then, doctor, for yourself that you
Yeah,
try to make sure it's
for
minimum?
myself, I usually go to sleep about 10:30, and my body just wakes me up usually around 6 o'clock to 6:30. And sometimes it wakes me up earlier, which kind of indicates that I really have gotten the quality of sleep. A lot of people are really focused on is even as important, if not more important.
Yeah, explain that side of the equation, please. I would love to hear your perspective on it, doctor.
Important, but the quality is, for example, if you have interrupted sleep, a lot of older folks have to go to the bathroom at night, or they're restless and they wake up a lot. We basically have different stages of sleep. Early in sleep, the first half of our sleep, we get more deep sleep, which is really relaxing and restful. The REM, the rapid eye movement sleep, in which we dream, is toward the last part of our sleep, and we need both of those. So if you shorten your sleep or it gets interrupted, you don't dream a lot, you don't get an REM, or you don't get in your deep sleep, then you're going to wake up in the morning, you're not going to really feel rested, you may be sleepy during the day. And so that's what I mean by quality of sleep, really sleeping soundly and getting all the different stages working.
Yeah, that was a fact I was really interested in reading about you, doctor, was that, quality, that even the people that do, shoot to get the 7-8 hours that is recommended for adults, that 75% of them experience sleep problems, so the quality is not good. What little things would you recommend that we could do to improve our quality of sleep, regardless of how long we're sleeping?
Well, of course, sleep, we're talking about the sleep patterns, and sleep patterns can vary from, there's so many things. Age can do that, because as we get older, we don't seem to require as much sleep. The amount of recent sleep, or how long we've been awake, the time of the day, relative to your internal clock may have a factor. Also, things like exercise, stress, environmental conditions such as temperature and light, the use of electronics before you go to bed, and even various chemicals that you get around, even like air fresheners, can actually make a difference of how you sleep.
Really?
So if you don't get restful sleep, you need to kind of look at your environment and look at what's going on with your stress and other factors that may be causing you to have interrupted sleep.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say this. This is the question I wanted to tie in. I'm 49 years old, doctor, and I literally get, I'm not kidding you, 4 to 5 hours. And even it's been so beautiful out here in the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, Michigan area. Even last night, had the windows open. I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want to give it up. We had the windows open, but I got about 4 hours of sleep. I got up, rode my bike in my home on my trainer, and I feel fantastic. And I typically get 4 to 5 hours on the average, and I feel okay. I've had people say it's going to catch up to you. Will it, or am I weird? Well, yes, you are weird, but that doesn't mean for you, you may still be normal. Okay.
Because it's a bell curve, and the top of the bell curve says you should get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and most people, that's what they need. But at the bottom of the bell curve, you could get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. At the top of the bell curve, you could maybe need 10 hours of sleep. So really, everybody is different, and I tell people, again, if you're getting quality sleep and you're getting enough sleep, you'll feel rested during the day. You won't have, you won't be falling asleep at the wheel. You won't be falling asleep in the middle of the afternoon. And if you're not, then you're actually getting adequate amount of sleep.
Wow. That's nice to hear.
I'm okay, I think.
Well, and it's nice to hear that because, it is scary. One of the statistics that we had read is that insomnia can triple the risk of death. I thought that was just staggering. And then you do hear about lack of sleep associated with weight gain and all kinds of even down to emotional issues.
That's what I want to ask the doctor, the medical conditions. Like, are there medical conditions that are associated
you may be
with?
predisposed to from not sleeping enough? Is that what you're... Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, and absolutely there are. It's really kind of interesting because numerous studies have shown that if you have shortened sleep durations or you have sleep disturbances that are chronic, you can get an increased risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, respiratory disorders, anxiety, Alzheimer's, and depression.
Wow.
And of course, sleep deprivation, like you already mentioned, can cause weight gain because it affects the two hormones, leptin and ghrelin, that regulate your appetite.
So that is why people then get the munchies when they think they have the munchies when they're, say, it's late at night. I know myself, I've many times over the years said, I have too much to do. I'm going to stay up and clean or something when the kids go to bed. And I find myself like binge snacking. and I think you just pointed out maybe why. Maybe I'm not truly
that's exactly
hungry.
Right, because what happens is you deprive your sleep, your leptin levels go down. Now, leptin usually inhibits appetite. So if you have a decreased level, your appetite goes up. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, and that is stimulated if you don't get sleep. So both of them are acting to make you hungrier and to eat.
Wow,
that's
that makes
a
me feel
great
better.
point.
So put down the Doritos and instead go to bed is what I should tell myself when it's late at night.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
now,
okay.
There's some, for people who have trouble sleeping, there actually are. They shouldn't eat a big meal, but there are some snacks that they can have that can help them get to sleep if
that's
they have
fantastic.
insomnia.
Okay,
Let's hear those.
please.
Yeah, tell us.
Okay, well, you could take like some hummus and some veggies, cherry and pistachio rice pudding. You can eat a helping of rice. Popcorn actually is spiced
That's one
or
of my
Parmesan
favorites.
cheese popcorn. Tart cherry juice, a banana smoothie. Now, this is interesting. Sweet potato fries. I love those.
Oh my
Really?
gosh, those are awesome.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
Doctor. What about those? What about these snacks? What do they have in common that that aids someone to sleep better?
Great question.
Well, again, that's a great question. Number one, they're healthy snacks. But number two, they affect those two hormones, the leptin and
They
ghrelin.
do.
So they basically turn off your appetite, and that increases that leptin level, decreases the ghrelin, and so it just gets rid of your appetite. Now, and by the way, I have a whole list of these in my book, Doctors Say What. So if people want to, they can refer to that whole. There's a big list of about 15 different items.
Right. I love that. I think it's so interesting.
Dr. Larry, can you please kind of throw out there, if you wouldn't mind, and just to explain to the viewers and to the audience about just what is sleep apnea in a nutshell? I mean, a lot of us are
It does
familiar with
affect
it,
so
but
many people.
it really does.
Yes, and 90% of people with sleep apnea don't know they have it. Basically, it's where you stop breathing at night for more than 10 seconds or only breathe like 50%. And the more times that you do that, again, it increases the risk of any number of diseases, including cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease. So if you see that your spouse or your significant other is not breathing well, or if you wake up at night and you feel like you're gasping for air, or you have excessive daytime sleepiness, you're not rested, you should be checked out for sleep apnea.
I'm curious to know, Doctor. I know just my father-in-law has sleep apnea, so he uses a CPAP machine. And there are times that I think that my husband is, headed that way. I did read that you have stated there are actually throat exercises to help improve that, that condition possibly. Maybe before I really tell him it's time to go to the doctor. What can I encourage him to try?
Well, there are throat exercises that can not only reduce sleep apnea, but also reduce snoring by 50%,
there we go.
Which is really good because, but for example, and I would tell people, go to a speech therapist because they know what these are and how to do that. But for example, yawning with increased effort and duration. So actually force yourself to yawn as long as you can. You can actually do tongue exercises where you push your tongue to the roof of the mouth with increased effort. And also you can chew gum with your back molars and have the tongue move the gum side to side for about 20 minutes. All of those are exercises that will strengthen what are called the oropharyngeal muscles and can really decrease snoring and decrease sleep apnea.
You are awesome. I
so
love you.
interesting. I think that is fantastic.
You would be great to have at a party, Doctor. I would just be standing next to you and be like, yeah, what he said.
Did you know? Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
And I'll tell people, this is my plug, if they buy my book, Doctors Say What, I've got hundreds and hundreds of these for any medical condition that you may have.
Yeah, I think that's great.
You
Good
are
read
awesome.
too. Good.
Yeah, can I ask this one question? Because, we brought this up, and just a thought on this. You had mentioned in the book the negative impact on electronics on basically, the quality of sleep. Can you kind of explain that? Because everybody, a lot of our children, everybody, electronics, everybody lives and breathes by that.
That's right. In fact, 90% of Americans use some type of electronic several nights a week before they go to bed.
Yeah.
And in fact, 40% of people check their email in the middle of the night, which is really amazing. Electronics have what are called is a blue light. We already know that white light can interfere with sleep, with production of melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. But blue light is actually worse. So a lot of people, if they, a lot of these teenagers and young people study by their electronics or read their email before they go to bed. If they do that for too long, it can really interfere with that sleep cycle.
I was reading about that, in preparation a little bit about the blue light. And, I found this interesting. I'm curious to know, they do sell, the blue light is what stimulates your body, thinking that if I'm read it right, that it's daylight, right? So I had actually come across, there is an alarm clock that you can purchase that when it's time to go off, it starts like illuminating a blue quote blue light that makes your body naturally wake up a little bit easier because it's your body knows it's daytime regardless of what time the alarm set. I'm curious to know if you have ever come across one and if you find any validity in that.
Well, theoretically that should work. If actually the blue light gets into your eyes, I mean, obviously as you're facing away, it's not going to have an effect because it actually that blue light has to hit on your retina to make the brain feel like it's awake. So, but theoretically it would work, if you woke up and you saw the blue light, it would stimulate your retina and it would start waking you up. So that's possible, but you'd have to have all those factors going on for it to work.
I just want to let you know in studio, not only have we tried the side to side with the tongue up on the roof, I have now done the weird eyes doctor where I said, I'm open up, but I just got to be honest with you. I don't really want to see the light yet because that means I'm by the big G and I just kind of want to hold off on that. So, doctor, I want to ask you about sleep. People use different, and I use this loosely, things to help them aid in sleeping,
like pills,
sleep aids and pills. Are there dangers to some of these prescription type things? Are there dangers to some of these sleep aids? Can you kind of expand on that if you wouldn't mind?
Sure. Actually, they did a study came out, I think about a year to 2 years ago, showing that people who chronically use sleep aids have a much increased risk of dying an earlier death.
Wow.
Any number of reasons. And it was all across the board. It wasn't just the Z meds, which are the ones that were most, Ambien and Sonata and those. And it's dose related. So, for example, if you use it 18 times a month, you have a much higher increased risk than if you used it only 4 or 5 times a month. So I tell people, if you're using sleep meds every night or the majority of the month, you really need to get with a sleep specialist, figure out why, and get off of these because they can really cause some problems. Now, they don't know why that causes it, but they just know it does cause it.
Right.
And by the way, those Z medications that I just talked about, which are the ones that we usually get from our doctors, they actually only increase getting to sleep by about 22 minutes. So a lot of people think, it works great. But in fact, there's a simple thing that people can do. It used to be you would count sheep.
Yeah.
But actually counting sheep can be counter sleep and can cause insomnia. But if you think about, say, a novel that you've read and you think over the plot, or if you go over the lyrics of one of your favorite songs, that seems to actually work pretty well for a lot of people in helping them get to sleep.
That's
I was going to say, I cranked down the Pacific Coast Highway in my mind from San Francisco to Malibu into Laguna. I mean, seriously, like I try to do things like you said that I've enjoyed or happy things in my life. Here's a really weird question that has come from a viewer. Ask the doc about nocturnal eating where you wake up with crumbs in your bed and you have no recollection of getting up to get crackers. It's a true text. Is that real? Does that happen?
That's absolutely real.
Wow.
It actually occurs with the Z drugs, Ambien, Sonata, Lunesta. In fact, Ambien, they decrease from a dose of 10 milligrams to 5 milligrams because a lot of people were eating at night, were sleepwalking, were even going outside the house and taking walks.
That's so
and
dangerous.
things like that. So it does happen, and if it does happen like that, you really have to be very careful what you do, or really get off those medications. But it's a real problem, and people have no idea what they're doing.
Now, doctor, if someone does experience that may not be taking medication, should they see their doctor right away? I mean, obviously, clearly, then they're having some interrupted sleep where they're not even realizing what's going on. That's very dangerous, I would imagine.
It is dangerous. It's very rare, though, if you're not taking the medication. It's really with the medication. But there are some people that do that and sleepwalk.
Yeah.
And there's some ways. Basically, they tell you mainly lock your door so you can't get out. But or they have monitors that actually wake you up. But yeah, I would agree with you that you should see your doctor or a sleep specialist if you do that.
Wow.
Excellent information.
It is. You know, I have a question about the medications stuff in general. I know when my children have bad coughs, we don't use cough medicine during the daytime. I believe they need to cough it up, you know, or so at least I can hear if it's worsening. But at nighttime, a couple of the more natural based cough medicines that we've used, and I've taken into our pediatrician, by the way, just to say, hey, is it okay if they take this? They have cough medicine and melatonin in it. Now, again, I would never give that during the day, and that's not something that you would typically need. But if they are sick, is that dangerous too? Does that increase their chances? I mean, now I think
a great question.
Maybe I should not give that to them ever.
No, melatonin alone is not a dangerous drug,
right?
You know, and they're usually used in small doses,
right?
So, and by the way, melatonin, there's a certain dose for every person. Every person is different, and I tell people if you take melatonin, it may not work in you, but if you start with a low dose like 0.5 milligrams, do it a few nights. See if you go to sleep. If you don't, go up another 0.5 to 1 milligram. And if you keep doing that stepwise, within 2 weeks, you're going to find the dose that's perfect for you. And you will know that dose, because as soon as you hit it, you're going to be going to sleep. So that's a good hint. But for your kids, I think the natural cough remedies are great. You know, honey is really good for cough.
Yes,
by the way,
the one we buy is a honey base, and it's a honey based cough syrup that does contain melatonin. And like I said, because it was a little bit different, being more all natural, I did take it into the pediatrician because I was a little nervous about it. But you know, they just find themselves coughing so much at night that they are not getting any quantity or quality sleep. So at least that definitely aids, but I wanted to check with you on that. So that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. And for adults, you know, the things like NyQuil and those over-the-counter, they're not bad either because they suppress the cough and they decrease the congestion and help you to sleep. So, you know, those are actually okay for you.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
Doctor, your book is available everywhere. Is that correct?
Right.
Well, no, actually just on Amazon.
Is it just Amazon? Okay.
But they can also go to my website and get a link. That's drsaywhat.com. And actually, I also will post things on there. I try to update it and get interesting studies and let people know about the new studies. So if they want to go to my website, it's great. But otherwise, just go to Amazon, and the books are available.
Fantastic. It was a great read. I appreciate you being on.
You are just great. You're a breath of fresh air.
Yes,
We'd love to have you on again.
Full of great information. Thank you so much.
Anytime, any medical questions, just call me up, and I'll be glad to share.
Great.
Thank you for all that you do, too, Doctor. We really appreciate it. I know you've been doing it for many years, so thank you for what you do for everybody.
Well, and thank you for having me on. I hope we've helped a lot of people out there.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Me too.
Thank you,
have
Doctor.
a great day.
You too.
Thanks.
I have to tell you, in that short time that we had the doc on the air, I cannot tell you how much I have learned.
My goodness. You know, and he was
It's
so
unreal.
engaging. You know, he's so engaging. And I love the title of his book, too, Dr. Say What. I think it's funny in a, little bit of a...
In a Rick Federici kind of
I
weird
like
way.
it. I just think
Dr.
he's
Say
awesome.
What?
I
That's
think
what you're
he's
thinking.
awesome. And, you know, him bringing up the point of see a sleep specialist is a fantastic point. LaPorte Hospital has a sleep lab, where they can
Absolutely.
test for all kinds of things. And, I looked up their website too to make sure, kind of get an idea. And, it is, they say it so plain, sleep is not a timeout from our lives. Everybody has busy lives, but it is essential to the quality of your life to get enough sleep. And I love that Dr. Altshuler pointed out that it is different for everyone. Of course, they recommend 7 to 8 hours, for an adult, but it is different for everyone. So I love that he pointed out for you, as long as you're feeling good and not that you're not falling asleep, you're not finding yourself kind of checking out by early afternoon. I think that is a sign that your body, you just fall different on the spectrum, and there's nothing wrong with that. Well, I think it's really funny that he said, "Yes, you're weird."
Yeah, that's what I liked.
I think that is so funny.
He's my kind of a doc.
I know it. I love that. Totally real, and I love that. So, of course, according to the National Sleep Foundation, most healthy average adults should average between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night. But at the sleep lab, they do help. There are many different sleep disorders. Actually, it says that there are 84 different types of sleep disorders identified, which I could not. I keep thinking of course, snoring and sleep apnea. Those are the two that come to mind. That's what I wanted
to ask him about, because I got to be honest with you. There are times, and I'm just going to say for me, you had mentioned your husband. I want to ask you this question after I say this. There are times that I snore, according to my wife and my kids. And there are times that I know I don't.
Yeah.
But there are times where I'll use, like, I've changed my pillow a million times. Yeah. So I've got a pillow that's, I guess, bonds with my neck structure, for lack of a better word. Then I could put a second pillow on there. And there are times where I will never snore. Like even today, I slept my solid 4 hours. There are times where my wife will hit me and say, "You're snoring."
Yeah.
But I know that there are other times where she'll say, "You didn't snore."
Yeah, that's it with my husband. He does the same thing. No, sometimes he snores and sometimes he doesn't.
Exactly.
And sometimes he snores so loud. And I think that would have been a great question to ask the doctor or your own physician or the sleep lab to find out, is that a sign that you were overtired? Is that a sign that you're not, positioned properly? A lot of times at home, I will just, nudge my husband and say, "Roll over, you're snoring so loud." And so then he will, and then it stops. So it definitely does vary. But my father-in-law has had CPAP many, many years. That's the machine he wears on his face.
Now, how does that work? Is that almost like, does it go over your nose?
Oh, it does. It covers. It does. And it
so you have to wear that when you're sleeping?
It does. And, even when we vacation or, my husband's family's from Nebraska. So whenever we go visit to Nebraska, my father-in-law lives here though.
Sure.
And we go, he has to have his machine.
So wait, explain the machine, because I what is it like? So is
it forced
loud?
Air. It is a little bit of I don't think that it's loud. I'm trying to recall if I've ever heard his. Yeah. And I mentioned before, I have children that were preemies, and so phasing out before they've come home, we've had CPAP, where it's like a forced air into the nose. It's like an oxygen in a sense, but it's like more forced in, and so the sleep apnea is a little bit. This covers like the whole face, though. I would imagine it would be difficult to get used to, but then once he is,
so like the things that drop down from an airplane, to give a visual, like from the top, or when you're breathing and you're. There are some that just go over the nose. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's not just like a little cannula. It's like bigger than that. Like, so I think that, he said it was very difficult for him to get used to it. But that once he was used to it, now he really cannot sleep without it. It's amazing to him the difference in his quality of sleep.
CL wanted me to throw this out to you. Tell Mary rubbing Vicks on the bottom of the feet and socks helps to calm a cough for getting sleep when you're sick.
I love that, and we've done that for years, and that's one of my favorite things for
Vicks
my own
is
self.
Great. Yeah.
When it really does help, and I know that is a medicine-free kind of alternative, and it really does make a big difference. I would recommend anybody to try. We always tell people.
Here's another one for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Tell Mary, can she please post on YoungerLife, or if our tech producers are listening, can you guys please post a list of things we can eat to help us sleep? We did ask the doc.
I think that's fantastic. Yes.
I'm looking forward to the banana smoothies, by the way.
That sounds great.
Great stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that he, he was really full of information, but I think that we should absolutely post that. So we'll talk to the team about putting that online. I think that would be great and very easy to and
you had mentioned here locally too, Mary, and I think this is very important at LaPorte Hospital. They do have that unit, that area. A lot of us,
Yeah.
may not have known that without you saying it.
Right, the sleep lab. So,
Sure.
they do, they specialize in doing comprehensive evaluations and diagnose and treatment of sleep disorders. So they are local. I think that it's fantastic to point out because it's something you don't really think about. Some of the disorders, I'm just going to name a few that they list that way that
Sure,
it
please.
actually helps sleep again. We all know it's important, but I guess what maybe we don't know is that it's easy to get help with. It isn't something that you have to live with forever. You can get help with it. And some of these are not just snoring and sleep apnea. That's the first two they have listed, but also insomnia, narcolepsy, periodic limb movement, which is a great one to point out because we all get that sometimes. Restless leg syndrome, which I had never heard about.
Everybody, a lot of people. It's like my dad used to call that the nervous Norvis.
Yeah, it's
like,
funny,
right,
and not be able to rest. I years ago had a coworker that had their partner had that, and I just thought, gosh, that's something you think, oh, come on, but then the more they describe it, and you think, wow, that would be terrible to sleep like that. So night terrors, sleepwalking, these are common. Some of the common disorders that the sleep lab helps to, evaluate, diagnose, and treat. So you don't have to live like that.
I would love to go to this lab.
Yes.
And have it visually.
It would be great to talk to some of the
Oh my
doctors
gosh, what
and
a
see
great
how they
follow-up
test for
to
some
this
of
piece.
these.
Yes.
Well, for those out there though, please, the sleep, for any of these sleep disorders or questions about them, the number for the sleep lab, I'm
Please.
just going to give that out.
Yeah.
It's 219-325-4633. And that is for the sleep lab itself and the sleep disorder center.
I visualize something very cool and unique. When it comes to the whole testing of it
Yeah.
and at least chatting. And I wouldn't have realized when you said 84, a couple
84
out there,
disorders, certainly. Oh, that's
and
absolutely.
how do you tie, the whole tying in of snoring? That's what I'm kind of nervous about personally as a guy.
Yeah, I think that everybody at some point deals with that, but I do think that there's a point where it's a little bit of just the normal snoring, and then it becomes an issue.
Yes.
Now, these exercises that Dr. Altshuler had spoke
I was cranking
I
it.
had. That's funny because I thought that's something at least you can try.
Sure.
If it's minor, in your case, like you said, sometimes you snore, sometimes you don't. My husband too. Why not take 2 minutes out of your day
In the
and
car.
try the,
Do all your
the
thing. That's why I
gum
was like-
thing? That's so funny. The chewing the gum on the back molars.
What did he
kind of a
say though about the
side-to-side.
tongue on the top of the?
By pushing the tongue on the roof of the
trying
mouth,
to do
like
that
with
right
a
now.
forced effort, it exercises these muscles in the throat.
Are you like right now I'm pushing it up, but it's like, you want to do it. but-
This is what I imagine, like a sit up, in the sense that you're pushing up and then release and then pushing up.
Everybody
I would
say,
just like,
"Oh."
repeat, kind of repeat that. But again, those are easy things you can do when you have a minute of your day when you're doing something else, because you don't, as long as you're clearly not speaking, it would be something you'd be able to do. And very good information.
Someone actually asked what happens to your body, which would have been a great question for the doc. And maybe we could follow up locally with LaPorte Hospital on this one question, actually. What actually happens to your body when you actually do use the types of medicines to get you to go to sleep? Because that's what personally, I'm just saying this for me personally. I'm not saying that this is anybody else. Does not affect the opinions of anybody we're chatting about. And I'm not a doctor.
Oh, right.
But I would,
neither one of us,
right.
clearly.
And I would be afraid to take stuff like that because I don't want to not wake up. That's what I'm worried about. Like, am I going to wake up if I take something like it puts me to sleep?
Yeah.
That's one.
And for me, I've always been a little funny about taking.
I don't want to touch that
I
stuff.
feel like once you take something, especially a sleep aid, in my own opinion, and my own thoughts, my own fears have always
Right.
been, once you do, you're gonna start your body. It's gonna mess your system up to where you're gonna have a hard time going to sleep on your own. And so that's why I've always been very resistant to try anything like that myself. But I mean, clearly these are prescribed by doctors too.
Right.
So they're obviously safe. I just think the doctor is saying, I think he pointed out that it is, overall, you're getting minutes additional sleep, and any medicines that we take,
That
no
was
matter
weird,
what
that
they are.
22-minute
I can't
figure. It's
believe
like,
that. That's
give me a
hard to
break.
believe.
Like,
I
why
mean,
even
I
take it?
imagine you take it, you go
Right.
right to sleep, and
That's
you're out.
exactly the way I visualize
That's how
it.
I imagine it.
Yes.
But again, I have no experience with that. So
At all. Me neither. I've never, ever taken anything like
so
that,
I think
ever.
I think that is a good question for maybe we could contact our local sleep lab or have one of our local physicians on, to find out exactly what we should be worried about, if we should be worried, or at what point should we say, okay, to maybe for somebody that does suffer some of these things that need medication for, maybe there would be specific instances where the doctor would say, try not to use it unless you get to this point. If you are having a couple days of very little sleep or insomnia, I mean, insomnia would be a terrible, that would be a terrible battle.
Think about that.
It really would be. I can't.
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever been in bed where you've got a million things on your mind? This has happened to me
Yes.
plenty of times. And you wake up after an hour or two, and then you're like just laying there. And I always try to put myself back to sleep into that mojo, that groove. It doesn't work.
It
But
doesn't.
you're up, and then you're literally up for the night.
That
Does
happens
happen?
to us. Like,
Yeah.
That does happen to my
Has
husband
happened
and
to
I
me plenty of
both. And
times.
and it's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that's not a reoccurring thing.
Agree,
And
but
so
it does
I think
happen.
at that point, right. And I think at that point, I would say, please call the sleep lab. I mean, if that were happening to me on a regular basis, I certainly would. I can't imagine. It's just not good for you. You know,
Agree.
you want to talk about staying younger longer. Lack of sleep is the first thing that'll age you.
Well, and that's, but
It's
I
so
feel,
true.
hey, I look pretty darn good for 87.
Oh, whatever.
Whatever.
Don't we all feel 87 some days? But I mean,
You know,
You know-
Here's the one thing I wanted to tie into what you said, and I think this is a great point. I had a challenge in my younger years with, the doctor said to me, Rick, you know what? You've got hypertension, you've got high blood pressure. And I had so many people saying to me, and to this day, I'm like, because that's why I try to be a little healthier. Once you start that stuff, and this is a great question again for our local folks, once you start it, you're on it for life, or you're on it for an extended amount of time.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons, and it's a very small dose, that when I was fighting it.
you hate to.
I was fighting it,
Right.
but there were things that were affecting me on the side, like, getting a little loopy or lightheaded,
Oh,
or
yeah.
getting headaches, or behind my eyes. There were just definitely signs
Right.
that were affecting me. So that is something like when you were talking about, once you start doing this,
It's scary.
Are you, do you have to take that?
Yeah, I think that that's a
I
very
don't
good
wanna do
point,
that.
and a fear of anybody that has to take medicine on a regular basis. I think that that's what all of our fears are when it comes to that. My husband, he borderlines like pre-hypertension,
Right.
to where there, our family doctor had commented once, if this stays an issue, you're going to end up
Can't
on
stabilize the
medication.
number there, Jeremy.
And that is my husband's biggest concern with
Sure.
it. But so far, we kind of just let it ride a little. But he has not experienced the
Does he have
the
headaches?
headaches and the lightheadedness
Okay.
and stuff, which is terrible. When you're talking like high blood pressure all the time, that's really hard on your body. So I mean, it is necessary, and obviously your doctors keep an eye on it. If it were causing any other issues, that I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, and I think you're hitting it right on the head. I'm glad that you two work together as Norm and I do, because I didn't want to age myself. I don't want to screw up my insides.
Oh, it's
you know what I'm
very
saying?
scary,
So I
right.
thought the best thing for me personally, I'm not saying for anybody else,
Right.
for me was to, I'm going to take this 0.5. It's so teeny. It's
Right,
little once a day. But I know people that have to take different things for cholesterol
Absolutely.
or for heart or
and
for
that's
head.
that's fine. It's nice that they can catch it,
Right.
that the doctors can catch it and try to get you back on track. Ideally, none of us would have to take any medication for anything,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not always realistic. And as long as they're staying in communication with their doctor, I think that is just key. But it is amazing reading about this doctor, about the book and about all these statistics. I mean, he's a pretty big deal.
Huge.
He heads up the oncology, which I was curious. I wish I would have thought to ask him how sleep and cancer, how they related, or just if he has seen in his own experience, a difference in response to treatment as far as with treatments of cancers, how it relates to their sleep or lack of, so that would be interesting too to find out
and
from a
I
local
have been
doctor.
around, as we all have around, either family members, friends,
Right.
or all the above that have had cancer, that have gone through different treatments. And I could tell you firsthand, just from me looking at and or being around, witnessing at that, whether it's chemo, whether it's the medicines, whether it's, and again, I'm not a doctor. I've seen it firsthand where they will say to me, man, I can't get sleep, or
Yeah.
they're restless,
Right.
or their mood changes, or their being changes, them as people. But it's related to whatever's going on. Everybody's different. Each person is
course.
individual, and each person is different.
Yeah.
But a little crazy.
I love this little line that I have to tell you from the
Sure.
Sleep Disorder Center, the sleep lab from LaPorte Hospital. They say, for some people, a good night's sleep is just a dream, but for our patients, it's often a dream come true. So
That
I
should be
would
a
say,
shirt.
I think that's beautifully written. So I
How
had to
about this?
say it.
Younger Life Live. And then
That's
say
right.
that last line. Go ahead. Younger Life Live.
For our patients, it's a dream come true.
Yeah,
So,
right
if you
there.
are experiencing any of these sleep concerns,
serious.
because it really is such a big deal and such a broad spectrum, as Dr. Altshuler pointed out, just all the, and of course I love his light and a little bit of humorous approach to, that's always my favorite. Every time when we talk to a doctor and they have a little bit more of a real life, hey, you know what, life happens
They're
kind of
normal,
attitude.
in other words.
Yes, I love that because I feel like that's so relatable to so many of us. And so, but he does state this is just part of life. And if you are experiencing these things, seek help from a sleep professional, and so I would say, again, I'm going to say that number one more time. For the
Please.
Sleep Disorder Center, the sleep lab here through LaPorte Hospital, it's 325-4633.
I would love to throw this out there too as a challenge to anybody that may be in tune with what we're doing right now here on Younger Life Live. If you find that you are getting a lack of sleep or you're whatever it may be out there, my GP told me, general practitioner for you young ones out there, told me, think of something that puts you in a really good state, something that was happy in your life. Whether it's the birth of your children, whether it's a family vacation that you're on, whether it's swimming, whether it's, in my case, he says, what do you like doing? I'm like, I love jamming. I love playing my guitar. And this was, I just started writing, quote unquote, and when he says to me, he goes, go to those places in your mind.
Yeah.
Relax. Because there's a lot of stuff that, whether it's the stress of life, whether it's just things in general, that keep you from sleeping. Try that. It's the only challenge I want to throw out there. Because if we can help someone, and I'm not a doctor, but it does work for me sometimes, not all the time.
Right.
Because there's like 10 things going through your head, and you're like, okay,
I know.
stop.
That's hard.
Turn it off.
It really is hard
Seriously.
sometimes. You find yourself tossing and turning, and sometimes it's so, it's frustrating. That is a terrible feeling, and thankfully not one I have to experience very often. But for the people that do, you don't have to live that way.
Are
I think that's what's
you a light
fascinating.
sleeper or a hard
I'm a
sleeper?
very light sleeper, which is rough.
I am too.
But I also think that's part of
Yes.
being a parent.
Agree.
You hear every little thing, and it's hard to turn that off.
Can I tell you
just
this?
Don't.
It's only going to get worse, especially as your 15-year-old
Yeah.
becomes that young adult and she's
Right.
allowed to stay out till 10:30 or 11.
Right.
And you're waiting for her in bed. Even myself, my wife and I, we quote unquote take turns or whatever. And there are times where I am just thinking, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Would you please come over? I'll text her and say, hey, honey, it's daddy. Dad, go to sleep.
Yeah, I know, no kidding.
But she's within her
tough.
curfew. Right.
It is. I am a light sleeper. My dad is a very light sleeper, and I think that's where I get it. But I'm the one I hear sometimes if the kids are in other rooms, even just tossing and turning like excessively, I get up to go make sure they're fine.
Yes.
Which I know sounds funny,
No,
but
it's
it's
not.
just true.
It's
You can't.
being a good parent.
I hear that. I just hear that. Where my husband's not a light sleeper.
Now,
So,
here's the problem that I find, and I'm just going to tell you from my perspective again, where if I am tossing and turning or I'm disrupting my soulmate sleep, Norma,
Yeah.
I feel bad because there are times like, would you stop it or,
Yeah.
whatever. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I'm just using this as an example. So that's another side where I'm like,
there have been times I literally will go to the couch because I can feel my own self being so restless.
Right.
And I try really hard to not watch TV because I know that
It'll wake that person up.
It emits. Oh no, I mean even out on the couch.
Right.
Because they say that it emits that like blue light, which I know sounds funny. And when I was talking about that alarm clock, they're kind of pricey, but I'm dying to try it. I think it would be interesting.
how
to
much
try.
when you say pricey? What, 50
I
bucks?
had looked it up on, I'm just going to say on Amazon.
Sure.
And it was like $112
Wow.
for an alarm clock.
Yeah.
You're thinking, I'm not so sure it's worth it, but it would be.
You're thinking that's groceries.
Well, I'm thinking at least it's a portion of groceries. It would be
Right.
interesting to try
Sure.
just to see. That's why I was curious to see if he's ever come across one or actually recommended one. But so I try hard to not watch TV. If I do find myself that restless or touching an electronic, it's hard not to grab the laptop or the iPad or something. Try to just not do that because it's too easy to be more awake after that. But one of the things about the blue lights that are emitted that I was reading and doing a little research, it said if you have to check something, or you are one of those students studying late at night, turn your brightness as low as you can get it, because at
And
least
why?
because the blue light that's emitted, the light that's emitted is at least not as bright, which will is the best case scenario of the worst case scenario. If you're going to be on a device and the light's down as low as it can be, it will at least help.
Are you ready for this one? I
Yes,
think you're
please.
going to like it as we round out the show here. Got a few minutes left. You too may not be doctors. However, the extra support with whatever the challenge is so valuable. I
We
am
love
going to
that.
cry
Thank
right
you.
now. That is
Thank you.
the motto on the back and the
That's
front of the
nice.
shirt, right?
Yes,
So
I
we've
love
got
that.
the
That's what we always hope for, and that's why it's
Seriously.
okay when we, say something that is not necessarily right. I feel like we're always telling people we are not the experts. And
We're just normal middle-class people.
We're going to say things wrong too. So it's always nice to have on a professional that
Sure.
does know what they're talking about, that we can kind of,
know what I
toggle
like?
back and forth with questions.
I like the after show meetings with the production team where they yell at me. You
Or-
never
or-
get yelled at. I'm
or-
the one that
oh,
gets
yeah,
yelled at.
right. Or where we laugh at
You're the
me
brown
for like
nose.
5 minutes about the saying blues when it was clearly
Don't worry
classical.
about it.
But it was funny, and
It was
I went home
awesome.
and my husband,
Right
we
over
got a
it.
good shot, and I didn't even notice it. We got a good laugh about it. So I said, whatever, it is what it is. I tend to stick my foot in my mouth somewhere every day. So
We all do, and we all make mistakes,
it's
and
okay.
that's why we're
It's
human.
part of funny,
It is a
right?
part of life.
At least we can
Hey,
laugh
I
over
want to
it.
throw this out there as we wind it down. We've got about a minute or so left. We've got the challenge, the 3 challengers coming in next week.
They're
early.
coming in next week,
Let's
right.
talk about that on Monday, correct?
They're coming to Monday, kind of the Jackie, Jenny, and Dwayne are going to come back in and kind of do a little. We're going to kind of set up a bi-weekly
Sure,
check-in.
sure.
We're hoping Dr. Level will be able to Skype in with us again.
be
That's still
wonderful.
unconfirmed, but I love
Yeah.
her. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She does the health coaching. So we're going to just touch base with them on Monday, kind of see how they feel things are going in their short-term goals, and see if they've had any surprises of their own, and kind of discuss maybe the next 2 weeks if they're gonna keep going, or if we can add an additional component in there maybe and go from there. So
Dwayne also brought up in his losing of 65 plus pounds
Right.
that has been able to get off some of the meds.
He did.
Not all. So that's something I would
Yeah,
love to chat with
absolutely. I
him
think
on.
that's
it.
great.
Judy says, love you, Mary. You are awesome. Keep up the great work.
Thanks.
So no, we do appreciate everybody's insight to Younger Life Live. It is each day. It's a journey. We try to learn. We try
always-
to educate together. I'm really, really excited about some of the upcoming shows, and we're going to have some real fun over the next several weeks, as we do every day, by the way.
Right.
So, but thank you so much. I'm Rick Federici.
I'm Mary Anthony.
And thanks to Ryan Beth, our executive producer for today's segment. Enjoy the day, stay healthy, and try something new. Get outside.
AM 1420, WIMS, Michigan City, a Girard Media Company station.